Welcome, I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories this hour. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals retain power after the election but fall short of a majority needed to strengthen his position in tariff talks with US President Donald Trump. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre concedes defeat and vows to hold the minority government accountable. India and Pakistan exchanged fire for a fifth straight day along the Kashmir border after the deadly Pahalgam attack that killed 26 people. Pakistan's defence minister warns of a possible Indian incursion, while India closes half of Kashmir's tourist sites to boost security. Power is restored to most of Spain after a major outage hit parts of Spain and Portugal, causing traffic and telecoms disruption. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says the cause is still unknown and urges people to avoid speculation. Russian President Vladimir Putin announces a 3-day ceasefire for the May holiday in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but President Zelensky calls it manipulation and demands full Russian withdrawal. Meanwhile, a Russian drone strike kills a 12-year-old girl in Ukraine's east, with her parents injured in the attack. Israel boycotts a UN hearing on aid as border fighting intensifies and Gaza's humanitarian crisis worsens. Egypt pushes for talks while hostages' families urge global action. Israel's defense ministry Shin Bet head Ronan Bar announces he will step down on June the 15th, saying he wants to allow a professional handover after 35 years of service. His resignation comes 6 weeks after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to remove him. At least 26 people die after 2 vehicles strike an IED in northeast Nigeria's Borno state, the centre of the country's Islamist insurgency. A safety group confirms the incident in a memo. The death toll from Saturday's explosion at Iran's Bandar Abbas container port rises to at least 70, with over 1,200 injured as firefighters contain blazes and toxic emissions 2 days later, the state media says. Mark Carney has led the Liberal Party to a stunning election victory, completing an incredible comeback after trailing badly in the polls just months ago. In his victory speech, Carney took direct aim at US President Donald Trump, warning that he is trying to break Canada so that America can own it, and vowing that it would never ever happen. It's still too close to call whether Carney will win an outright majority or will need support from other parties to govern. But for now, he is celebrating a major victory in politics. Carney also vowed to turn Canada into an energy superpower and to bring strong jobs across the country. Speaking in both English and French, he promised to govern for all Canadians. Let's listen in to what Carney had to say in his victory speech.
The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal. But we should never forget. We've been warning for months. America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre conceded defeat, telling supporters he has tried hard their frustrations and pledging to keep fighting for a better future. Let's listen in.
Canadians have opted for a razor-thin minority government, a virtual tie in the vote count. So I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on leading this minority government. We'll have plenty of opportunity to debate and disagree. We will always put Canada first as we stare down tariffs and other irresponsible threats from President Trump. Conservatives will work with the Prime Minister and all parties with the common goal of defending Canada's interests and getting a new trade deal that puts these tariffs behind us while protecting our sovereignty and the Canadian people.
Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced he will step down after a disappointing night for his party, which is projected to win only a handful of seats. Mark Carney now faces a divided parliament and tough negotiations ahead, but says Canada's strength lies in unity, ambition and in humility. Tensions between India and Pakistan have reached new heights after last week's deadly terror attack in Pahalgam. The Pakistan army has now engaged in cross-border firing for 5 straight days, with Indian troops responding in kind. The violence has escalated since the attack, which has left 26 people dead and continues to disrupt peace along the line of control. As the situation intensifies, Pakistani nationals are leaving India through the Atari border, with their medical visas expiring. India has also closed half of Kashmir's tourist spots in a bid to bolster security. Meanwhile, Pakistan's defence minister has warned of a potential military incursion from India, further escalating tensions between the two nuclear powers. Despite these developments, Pakistan has denied any involvement in the attack and called for a neutral probe. The international community is now stepping in. Both China and Turkey are urging both nations to exercise restraint and avoid further violence. We are now joined by our guest today to discuss this further, retired General Lieutenant Nitin Kohli, the senior defence expert. Thank you very much for joining us, General Kohli.
Thank you.
5 nights straight of this cross line of control firing. It's shredded the 2021 ceasefire. What realistic steps could either side take to restore that pact before this situation possibly spirals further?
Good morning, Thomas. Thanks for having me on a show. You see, since 22nd, the firing has been taking place on the line of control. The Pakistan has activated the entire line of control, and we have our Indian Army has been responding in a very measured manner, so that we give them response, and at the same time things do not escalate. Because escalation, when we do, it will be well thought out, set piece, deliberate, and it shouldn't be dictated by Pakistan. So that's what has been going on. At the moment, there is no possibility that the things will sort of settle down. India has domestic pressure, and India has been hurt also. World support is also there, and something big is in the offing. We need to see. We obviously can't discuss, not that we are privy to it, what will be the number of options which India has. Now let us see what happens. So this kind of firing, etc., will go on.
Yes. General Kohli, Pakistan's defence minister has warned of an imminent Indian incursion, and then said his words were misinterpreted after this. What does this episode reveal about the current relations between Pakistan and India?
The relations between India and Pakistan are absolutely at the nadir. And but the relations at the moment are not important. Their defense minister has made 2-3 statements. Firstly, he has accepted in a TV interview that last 30 years they've been doing this dirty job for Americans. he has accepted that they've been supporting terrorism. One. Second statement he made was that there are a large number of sleeper cells in the country within India, which they say that they can activate. And the third thing is they're feeling that the attack is imminent. Yes. So
yes.
At least for a change, he has spoken truth. And yes, attack is imminent. They are kind of spooked if you see the kind of actions which are taking place. They have shifted their arsenal in the safer places. Their F-16s, they have a total of 70. Two squadrons have been moved to Gwadar, which is about 500 kilometers away from the range of S-400. Some of the senior officers, they have dispatched their families. Their chief of the army staff, Asim Munir, for last 4 days, he's been sitting in their military academy at Ottawabad. There's no reason for him to be there. If he's going to visit the parade is not for more than 2 hours, 3 hours, not more than this. Their PM today, the news is, has also fallen sick. We wish him good health. So there is lots of pressure they are under. They know that this attack is imminent and they are in no position domestically, economically, and militarily to kind of fight with us. But they have initiated, they have thrown themselves into this position where they have to face the consequences.
Yes, and finally, General Kohli, I wanted to move to another one of today's updates. By closing 48 out of 87 of Kashmir's tourist sites, Delhi hopes to prevent another attack, of course. But how will this help the security efforts in the Kashmir region?
Thomas, could you repeat the question, please? I couldn't get you.
My apologies. One of today's updates is that the 48 of Kashmir's 87 tourist sites have been closed, with Delhi hoping to prevent another attack. How will this help the security of India?
You see, what has been happening is, if you see last 5 days, over 600 places in Kashmir have been raided by the security forces. Hundreds of people have been picked up and they are being graded. 9 houses of the terrorists and their supporters have been razed to ground. So the security is being tightened. And after 22nd Pahalgam attack also, there have been certain encounters. At the moment also, a big encounter has been going on. The perpetrators of this 22nd April attack are also being engaged, and at the moment engagement with the army is going on there. So the situation is not safe. That is number one. Secondly, you see, when the tourists stop coming and the places are closed, the locals suffer. Not that we want them to suffer, they are our own Indian people, but they are the ones who have been, some of them have been supporting the terrorist.
Yes.
A terrorist cannot operate without the connivance of the locals. So they also need to be kind of given a message. So these are the things. It helps the security forces in planning, because at this stage we can't afford one more attack on the tourists. So government is taking adequate precautions so that this kind of thing doesn't happen.
Lieutenant General Nitin Kohli, thank you very much for your insight. We now move over to Europe, where a sweeping power outage left millions of people across Spain, Portugal and parts of France without electricity on Monday, triggering chaotic scenes and widespread disruption in the affected nations. In Spain, power began to return to the Basque Country and Barcelona areas, with parts of Madrid seeing power restored by Monday night. According to the national grid operator, about 90% of electricity had been restored in mainland Spain. Power gradually returned to various municipalities in Portugal, including the Lisbon city centre. The grid operator confirmed that 85 out of 89 power substations were back online. But the issue is believed to have stemmed from power connection problems between France and Spain, according to a representative from Europe's power industry. The Spanish Prime Minister has said that the country has suffered a loss of 15 gigawatts of electricity generation in 5 seconds, equivalent to 60% of national demand. Technicians were working to determine why the sudden drop occurred. Portuguese Prime Minister Luís Montenegro added that there was no indication that the outage was caused by a cyber attack. When asked about the cause, Sanchez said that the cause of the outage is still under investigation. Let's listen in to what the Spanish Prime Minister said.
¿Qué ha provocado esta desaparición súbita del suministro? Es algo que los especialistas aún no han podido determinar, pero lo harán. Y las instituciones del Estado competentes y todos los operadores privados están trabajando de forma coordinada para comprender qué ha pasado, qué ha sucedido. Se están analizando todas las causas potenciales, insisto nuevamente, sin descartar ninguna hipótesis, ninguna posibilidad. Ya se ha restablecido el suministro en varios territorios del norte y del sur de la península, gracias a las interconexiones con Francia y con Marruecos, países a los cuales quiero agradecer también su solidaridad en este momento. También se han reactivado los ciclos combinados y las centrales hidroeléctricas de todo el país, algo que debería permitirnos recuperar el suministro en toda España pronto.
Let's stay in Europe, but move east. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a 3-day truce starting from midnight, May the 8th. The Kremlin has said that Putin ordered a full cessation of hostilities to mark the 80th anniversary of Russia's Victory Day, which falls on May the 9th. Russia called on Ukraine to join the truce and added that there would be an adequate and effective response if Ukraine violates the ceasefire. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the world did not want to wait until May the 8th. In his nightly address, he called for a full and unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days to provide a basis for real diplomacy. Let's take a look at what the Ukrainian president had to say.
Ми ще 11 березня відповіли позитивно на саме американську пропозицію повної тиші. Ми запропонували своє у двосторонньому порядку Росії припинити удари щонайменше по цивільних об'єктах, хоча б по них. Запропонували також зробити повним і продовжувати на 30 днів припинення вогню на Великдень. Росія постійно все це відкидає і маніпулює світом. Намагається обманути Сполучені Штати. Зараз от знов чергова спроба маніпуляцій. Чомусь всі повинні чекати 8 травня. І тільки тоді припиняти вогонь, щоб забезпечити Путіну тишу на час параду. Ми цінуємо життя людей.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha also supported Zelensky, stating on social media platform X that if Russia truly wants peace, it should cease fire immediately and did not want to wait until May the 8th. This comes after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio held new talks with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, having declared that this will be a crucial week in a US decision on whether to halt its peace efforts. Meanwhile, Trump has said that he thought Zelensky was ready to give up Crimea, though the Ukraine leader has ruled out this several times. Russia said that it was ready to negotiate directly with Ukraine, but recognition of its claims over Ukrainian regions, including Crimea, were imperative to resolving the conflict. Reportedly, Ukraine has denounced Russia's annexations as an illegal land grab and says it will never recognize them. Zelensky said that week that Ukraine would not legally recognize any temporarily occupied territories and has previously called Moscow's demand for Kyiv to demilitarize as incomprehensible. Moreover, France's President Emmanuel Macron has announced that Western nations would increase pressure on Russia over the next 10 days, and next 2 weeks would be crucial in trying to start a ceasefire. Macron also said that he had urged Trump in a recent discussion to be tougher with the Russian president. We are joined by Rohan Gunaratne, international affairs expert, to discuss this in more detail. Thank you, Rohan, for joining us. I first want to focus on this proposed ceasefire by Russian President Vladimir Putin. And given that Russia's Easter ceasefire collapsed within hours, what, if anything, makes this 72-hour pledge more credible to outside observers?
Thomas, President Trump has given a very clear warning to the President of Russia and also to Zelensky that both of them have to agree to his suggestions. Otherwise, he has threatened to walk out of this negotiation, being a mediator. So I believe that both Putin and Zelensky will agree to a ceasefire. Certainly, Trump himself wants a longer ceasefire, not a short ceasefire. So I believe that there is all the possibility, the likelihood that the Russians and the Ukrainians will work together on this occasion.
Yes, and Professor Gunaratne, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called this a crucial week for US peace efforts. What leverage can Washington still exert if Kyiv dismisses the offer and Moscow refuses to a longer pause?
Russia has greater capabilities and capabilities that can sustain the war. So it is in the interest of Ukraine, but also it is in the interest of Russia to agree, because Putin and Trump, they have a rapport. And if Trump walks out of this, certainly the Americans can support Ukraine in the fight, and he doesn't want that to happen. So it is very likely that both these parties will come together.
Yes, and finally, given this three-day window is primarily designed to secure a trouble-free victory parade in Moscow rather than create space for substantive diplomacy, is that possibly what Putin is thinking?
You are right, Thomas, because 3 days is not sufficient to have sustained negotiations. And I think that the world understands that. Putin also is aware of it. And that is why I think that this is a great moment for both parties to come together to work out a more durable, more sustainable ceasefire truce that will lead to permanent peace.
Professor Rohan Gunaratne, thank you very much for joining us. We now move back over to North America, where new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is receiving a wave of international congratulations. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Canada a close ally and vowed to deepen historic ties. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen echoed support, calling the Europe-Canada bound strong and growing stronger. Both leaders look forward to working with Carney on shared values and global cooperation. We have more breaking news coming in. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor has said that at least 4 Druze fighters were killed in overnight clashes with security forces after they stormed a Damascus suburb. Heavy clashes erupted in Jaramana after security forces and affiliated gunmen stormed areas of the mostly Druze and Christian suburb after a recording containing religious insults was circulated, which has been attributed to a Druze citizen. Reportedly, a Jaramana resident said they heard gunfire and shelling during the clashes, which lasted around half an hour. We will continue to bring you more updates on that developing situation. We now stay in the Middle East, where Israel is under fresh international scrutiny as it boycotts a landmark hearing at the International Court of Justice. The United Nations' top court is investigating Israel's decision to ban UNRWA, the UN agency that provides critical support to Palestinian refugees. Israel has refused to participate, denouncing the proceedings as politically motivated. It accuses the UNRWA of cooperating with Hamas, a charge the agency strongly denies. At home, Israel is facing political upheaval. The ousted head of its internal security agency, Shin Bet director Ronan Bar, has announced his resignation. His departure follows growing tensions with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the government's handling of the Gaza conflict. Let's take a listen in to what Ronan Bar, the Shin Bet chief, had to say.
שנות שירות בכדי לאפשר תהליך סדור של מינוי מחליף קבוע וחפיפה מקצועית, אסיים את תפקידי ב-15 ביוני. אהבתי למולדת ונאמנותי למדינה הן הבסיס לכל החלטה שקיבלתי בחיי המקצועיים, כך גם הערב.
In another related development, negotiations in Cairo aimed at securing a ceasefire in Gaza were on the verge of a significant breakthrough, according to the two Egyptian security sources. However, there has been no official comment from Israel or Hamas on these claims. The Egyptian sources indicated that a consensus on a long-term ceasefire had been reached, although key issues remain unresolved, particularly concerning Hamas's weapons. Hamas has consistently stated that it will not lay down its arms, which is a major demand from Israel. This comes as Egyptian state TV reported that Egypt's intelligence chief, General Hassan Rashad, was set to meet with an Israeli delegation led by Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer in Cairo. The meeting is part of Qatar-Egyptian efforts to restore a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Meanwhile, Amnesty International has accused Israel of committing a live-streamed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza by forcibly displacing most of the population and deliberately creating a humanitarian catastrophe. Let's take a listen in to what Nathalie Goddard, Director of Action at Amnesty France, had to say.
L'Amnesty International a mené une enquête de plusieurs mois pour aboutir à cette analyse juridique qui qualifie la situation à Gaza de génocide. C'est des mois d'enquête et un rapport de 300 pages avec une analyse juridique très précise qui est fondée sur la définition du génocide dans la Convention de 1948, donc la Convention qui définit le génocide. En fait, on aboutit à cette définition parce qu'on considère qu'il y a 3 actes constitutifs de génocide sur 5 possibles et qui sont commis par l'armée israélienne, par l'autorité israélienne à Gaza, et qui sont combinés avec une intentionnalité qu'on arrive à démontrer, donc l'intentionnalité qui est donc la volonté de destruction d'un groupe de population. Et donc c'est ce qu'on démontre que les autorités israéliennes ont une intention de destruction du groupe de Palestiniens de Gaza.
Israel's military has confirmed it carried out over 50 strikes on what it calls terror targets across Lebanon over the past month. This comes despite a ceasefire agreement signed in November, which brought an end to the war between Israel and Hezbollah. The latest strike took place on Sunday, when Israeli forces targeted a building in South Beirut for the third time since the fragile ceasefire began on November the 27th. The Israeli Defense Forces have defended their actions, saying these strikes were necessary after repeated violations of the ceasefire by Hezbollah, which posed a direct threat to Israeli security. Hezbollah's leader, Naim Qassem, has urged the Lebanese state in a televised address to exert pressure on the US and France to ensure Israel aids by the terms of the ceasefire. Let's take a listen in to what the Hezbollah chief had to say.
نحن نعتبر أن الدولة مسؤولة عن المتابعة بالضغط على الدولتين الراعيتين أمريكا وفرنسا، وكذلك على الأمم المتحدة ومجلس الأمن وقوات الطوارئ الدولية. على الدولة أن تضغط، والضغط الذي مارسته الدولة حتى الآن هو ضغط ناعم بسيط.
A technical team from the International Atomic Energy Agency arrived in Iran on Monday for talks with nuclear experts, part of a follow-up efforts after the UN nuclear watchdog's chief visited Tehran earlier this month. The IAEA delegation will meet with Iranian officials to discuss nuclear safeguards and ongoing monitoring, according to Iran's foreign ministry. The visit comes after Iran and the United States held a third round of nuclear negotiations in Oman last week. Iran's foreign minister confirmed that the IAEA may participate in the next round of Iran-US talks scheduled for this Saturday. IAEA Director Rafael Grossi, who visited Tehran on April the 17th, said the agency could help facilitate a positive outcome. Let's listen in to what he said.
This is a moment of enormous importance. This is a moment where a number of processes are ongoing. In particular, there is a very important effort between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. I'm in constant contact with Ambassador Witkoff, of course, at the same time consulting with Foreign Minister Araghchi in order to provide the technical support that and capabilities and monitoring potential that the IAEA should be able to exercise. Because as you know, and I think the minister has evoked that, without this kind of capability to check and see that what is agreed on paper is really observed, this would be just a piece of paper. So this is a very urgent moment, as the minister just said. It's not a matter of months or years, it's perhaps a matter of weeks, whether we can really come to something that is doable, is feasible, and above all, avoids the specter of more military conflicts in this world and in a region that I don't need to explain to you how volatile it is at this moment.
The latest diplomatic push comes amid renewed concern over Iran's nuclear program. In February, the IAEA reported that Iran is enriching uranium to 60%, dangerously close to weapons grade, calling the situation of serious concern. Iran, which denies seeking nuclear arms, began breaching uranium enrichment limits after President Donald Trump withdrew the US from the 2015 nuclear deal in 2018. Let's now move to the United States. 4 children aged 4 to 18 were killed when a vehicle crashed into an after-school camp building in Chatham, Illinois. Police say 3 were hit outside and 1 was hit inside, and several others were also hospitalized, 1 being airlifted. Let's take a listen in to what Scott Tarter, the Deputy Chief of Police in Chatham, Illinois, has said about this deadly crash.
Correct. We received a call at approximately 3:20 p.m. for a vehicle that had driven through the Why Not building. We did find that there were multiple fatalities and had confirmed at this time 4 fatalities. So I call it the suspect is at the hospital with a police officer at this time. And
the driver was uninjured and is under investigation. The crash occurred around 3:20 p.m. and Why Not after school camp, known for outdoor youth programs. Governor J.B. Pritzker called the tragedy heartbreaking, saying no parent should have to endure this. Police investigation into the cause of the crash is currently underway. Well, now let's move to the Indo-Pacific. After one of the worst wildfires in March, another wildfire broke out in the southeastern city of Daegu, spreading rapidly late Monday and forcing 1,200 residents to evacuate. No casualties have been reported as of yet. Authorities have stated that the fire broke out at approximately 2 p.m. local time in Hamjisan. While the cause of the fire remains unidentified, investigations into the exact cause will begin once firefighting efforts are completed. Initially, forest authorities issued a Level 1 wildfire response, deploying 19 helicopters, 38 pieces of firefighting equipment, and 165 firefighters. 30 minutes later, the response was raised to a Level 2, the highest level on a 3-tier scale, as strong winds and dry conditions pushed the blaze into different areas. By 6 p.m. local time, a Level 3 response was announced. Well, let's go to the United States once again, where the White House has launched a week-long celebration of Donald Trump's first 100 days in office. His focus remains heavily on his immigration crackdown, one of his strongest issues with voters. Even as new polls show warning signs for the president, Trump advisors touted unprecedented success at the border, saying deportations are accelerating. About 139,000 people have been removed so far, and Trump's team says they are ramping up plans for the largest deportation effort in U.S. history. Here's what Tom Homan, the White House Executive Director of Enforcement and Removal Operations, said during a White House press conference.
Around 1.4 million illegal aliens who've been ordered removed but remain here in violation of the law. We will aggressively prosecute, consistent with long-standing law, those aliens for failing or refusing to depart, or who takes other related actions aimed at hindering their removal.
Earlier, US spokesperson Caroline Leavitt posted a video on her X account of yard signs featuring immigrant mugshots that were posted across the White House lawn, while Trump officials dismissed polling that shows many Americans think he's focusing on the wrong priorities. A new AP NORC survey finds about only half of Republicans say that Trump has had the right focus, with some of his own supporters expressing doubts about his economic policies and aggressive use of executive power. Trump is set to hold a 100th day rally in Michigan's Macomb County and deliver a commencement speech on Thursday at the University of Alabama. In a recent interview, Trump has said he feels more powerful in his second term, adding, "This time I run the country and the world." Earlier, Trump signed 2 new executive orders on immigration, including one that will publish a list of so-called sanctuary city jurisdictions. Despite falling approval numbers, Trump officials insist the administration is moving full speed ahead. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the globe.